When Amelia Torres, a struggling educator with a bruised spirit, gives up her flight seat to a desperate father at a crowded airport, she has no idea that one selfless act will redefine her entire life. 35-year-old Amelia Torres stood alone at Gate C-21 in Horizon Regional Airport. Her baby black hair was pinned into a tight bun, and her warm caramel-brown skin glowed faintly beneath the cold fluorescent lights. She wore a navy blue cardigan over a pale peach blouse, faded jeans, and worn loafers, clothes that had seen too many interviews and too few callbacks. Her dark eyes were tired but alert, scanning the terminal for a sign that this day might finally turn in her favor. Just 3 months ago, the small private school where she'd taught for 8 years had closed abruptly due to budget cuts. Since then, her days had been filled with rejection letters and dashed hopes. But today, a job interview awaited her in Cedar Falls, a prestigious institution rumored to be seeking passionate educators. As she clutched her boarding pass with trembling fingers, she whispered to herself, "This is it, Amelia. This is your shot." But fate, as always, had other plans. Just as boarding began, a commotion broke out near the front of the line. A man in his early 40s, with salt and pepper hair and olive-toned skin, pleaded with the airline agent. His arms cradled a crying little girl, no older than 5, with pale skin and flushed cheeks, her light brown curls tangled and sticky with sweat. "Please, I'm begging you," the man's voice cracked. "She needs surgery. Her condition's deteriorating, and this is the only flight that can get us to Pinebrook in time." Amelia's eyes met his for just a moment. The panic in his expression stabbed her with a kind of pain that had nothing to do with her own misfortunes. She watched as other passengers turned away, uncomfortable but unmoved. The gate agent shook her head solemnly. "We're overbooked, sir. There's nothing I can do unless someone gives up their seat voluntarily." Amelia's heart pounded. The job interview, her one shot. She looked again at the girl, whose tiny hands clutched her father's shirt. Then she stepped forward. "I'll give up my seat." The gate agent froze in surprise. "Ma'am, are you sure?" Amelia nodded, though her legs trembled. "Yes, let them take my spot." The father's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," he whispered hoarsely. "You don't understand what this means." "I don't need to," Amelia replied softly. "Just go." The girl smiled weakly, her face flushed and fragile. "Thank you, lady." As the father and daughter disappeared into the jet bridge, Amelia's resolve began to crack. Her hands shook as she returned to the plastic terminal seats, tears stinging the corners of her eyes. What had she done? An hour later, she sat silently at a nearby coffee shop, staring into her cooling drink. Her interview was gone, the flight fully booked, no guarantees of a second chance, but beneath the grief was something strange, peace. For once she had made a choice that wasn't about herself. 2 days later, Amelia sat on the steps outside her apartment building, holding her phone and rereading a rejection email from the school in Cedar Falls. Her shoulders sagged under the weight of disappointment. Just then her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Ms. Torres? Yes, this is Michael Reyes. You gave up your flight at Horizon Regional. For me and my daughter." Her heart jumped. "How? How did you find me? I remembered your name from the boarding pass. I asked the airline for help tracking you down. I just wanted to say thank you. Mila's surgery was successful. She's going to be okay." Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes. "I'm so glad." Michael's voice grew warmer. "I run an education foundation in Brookhaven called Silverstone Scholars. We need teachers, ones who lead with compassion like you. Would you be willing to come visit?" Amelia's breath caught in her throat. "Yes, absolutely yes." Amelia arrived in Brookhaven 2 days later, feeling a mixture of nerves and hope that swirled through her like a storm. She wore her best gray blazer, paired with a soft pink blouse and black slacks. The same outfit she had worn for her interview that never happened. This time, however, she was walking into something unplanned, undefined, and perhaps even life-changing. Silverstone Scholars was tucked inside a refurbished library building in the heart of the city. Its exterior was modest, but inside the energy was electric. Walls painted in calming hues, student artwork adorning every surface, and a sense of warmth that Amelia hadn't felt in a long time. Michael Reyes greeted her at the front door with a tired smile. Up close he looked even more worn, but with a glow that came from recent relief. "Thank you again," he said, shaking her hand. "You didn't just save Mila. You reminded me that compassion still exists in this world." He gave her a tour, explaining that Silverstone was built for children who had fallen through the cracks of traditional education. Kids with trauma, disabilities, or emotional needs that demanded more than textbooks. "This isn't a school that runs on curriculum," he said. "It runs on heart." Amelia's eyes widened. She didn't know it yet, but this place would become her second home. Instead of a traditional sit-down interview, Michael simply walked Amelia through the classrooms, introduced her to staff, and let her talk to the children. One boy, no older than 10, refused to speak but handed her a paper airplane with "hello" written on the wing. Another girl, hiding behind a bookshelf, peeked out and whispered, "You look like my aunt, she was nice too." By the end of the afternoon, Amelia's blazer was draped over her arm and her hair had come undone from playing tag during recess. But she was smiling, truly smiling, for the first time in months. Michael caught her on her way out. "We've never done things the conventional way here," he said. "I'd like to offer you a position. It won't pay much. We survive on donations and grants, but the impact—" He paused, searching her expression. "I'll take it," she said without hesitation. "I've been looking for a place like this for a long time," he chuckled. "Funny thing is, we've been looking for someone like you," and just like that, the chapter of rejection closed. A new story, unwritten and waiting, had just begun. The following week, Amelia officially joined Silverstone Scholars as a full-time educator. Her classroom was a cozy corner space with large windows that overlooked a small community garden. She spent days repainting the walls, bringing in beanbags, soft rugs, and bookshelves filled with worn but treasured stories. She crafted a feelings board where students could pin notes about their emotions. Another wall was reserved for small wins, any little achievement from tying a shoelace to speaking in front of the class. For the first time in her life, Amelia didn't feel the need to follow a strict curriculum. Here, teaching wasn't about metrics, it was about connection. At first, the students were guarded. Many had come from broken homes or traumatic experiences. But slowly, with patience and consistency, they began to trust her. One child brought her a hand-drawn picture of them holding hands under a sun. Another whispered, "I like when you smile, it feels safe." Each day, Amelia felt the pieces of her identity stitching back together. Not as the teacher who lost her job, but as the one who found her calling. She no longer needed permission to believe in herself. Her classroom had become the proof. Amelia hadn't expected to see Mila again so soon. But 3 weeks into her new job, Michael arrived with his daughter in tow. Mila was healthier now, her cheeks fuller, eyes brighter, walking on her own beside her father. "Guess who insisted on seeing her hero again?" Michael said with a grin. Mila ran into Amelia's arms without hesitation. "You saved me," she whispered, wrapping her small arms around her waist. Amelia blinked away tears. "No, sweetheart, you saved me too." Later, Michael sat with Amelia in the staff room, watching through the window as Mila played with other children in the courtyard. "I never told you," he said, his voice low. "But when Mila got sick, I nearly gave up. I thought I'd lose her. And when you stepped forward that day, it reminded me that life still had surprises left. That kindness wasn't extinct." He paused. "I want you to know that this school, Silverstone, it exists because I had someone believe in me once. Now it's my turn to do the same. And I think you're meant to lead here someday." Amelia looked away, overwhelmed by emotion, but somewhere deep inside she believed him. Months passed, and Amelia settled into a rhythm. Her students blossomed in ways she couldn't have imagined. One formerly withdrawn child began leading group projects. Another, who struggled to read, started writing poetry. Amelia often thought about the airport, about that single impulsive choice to give up her seat. What if she hadn't? Where would she be now, still chasing dead-end interviews, still doubting her worth? The thought haunted and comforted her all at once. It was a reminder that some of life's most powerful moments don't come from plans but from compassion. One afternoon, a fellow teacher asked her, "Do you regret not taking that flight?" Amelia smiled, watching her students erupt in laughter during a group activity. "Not for a second," she said. That evening, she wrote a journal entry. "One seat on a plane led me here. A different path, a better path. I used to think losing my job was the end, but maybe it was the beginning." She closed the journal and placed it on her bookshelf, right beside a crumpled paper airplane and a crayon drawing labeled, "Ms. Torres, best teacher ever." Her past no longer defined her, her purpose did. Autumn came to Brookhaven in a swirl of orange leaves and cool breezes, and Amelia's classroom shifted with the seasons. Her students, once hesitant and withdrawn, had begun to blossom in ways that made her heart ache with pride. One day, as she packed up her things after class, she noticed a folded note tucked into her desk drawer. In a child's shaky handwriting it read, "Ms. Torres, I used to hate school, but now I want to come every day. You make me feel like I matter." There was no name, just a heart drawn in red marker. Amelia clutched the note to her chest, overcome with emotion. She'd come so far from the woman sitting in that airport terminal, hopeless and uncertain. Here, in this tiny classroom with creaky floors and second-hand furniture, she had found something no paycheck could offer: impact. The note was anonymous, but it didn't matter. It was proof that her presence was changing lives. And every day she returned to the classroom, it wasn't to teach reading or math. It was to build a space where children could feel safe, seen, and valued. In giving up her seat, she'd made room for something far greater. Michael invited Amelia to join a monthly meeting he called the Educators' Circle, a gathering of teachers and staff from various nonprofits who shared stories, struggles, and strategies. The first time she attended, Amelia felt a wave of intimidation. These were seasoned educators, community leaders, and program directors. What could she offer that they hadn't already mastered? But as the meeting progressed, she found herself sharing the story of Mila, of the ticket she gave up, and of the path it led her down. By the end of her story, the room was silent. Then came the applause, not for drama but for honesty. One elderly woman said, "That's the kind of heart we need more of." From then on, Amelia became a voice in the circle, someone others turned to for support and fresh perspective. She spoke not as an expert, but as a listener, a learner. The experience reminded her that leadership wasn't about hierarchy, it was about connection. Michael noticed her growth too. "I meant what I said," he reminded her one evening. "You're meant to lead here someday." Amelia didn't answer right away, but the seed of belief had been planted. One cold November morning, Amelia received an unexpected email from the school in Cedar Falls, the one she missed her interview with. It read, "We recently reopened our position. Your original application stood out, and we'd like to invite you for an interview. The job includes relocation support and a competitive salary." She stared at the screen for a long time. 6 months ago, this message would have felt like salvation. Now it felt like a question. That afternoon, she walked the halls of Silverstone Scholars, watching her students laugh, play, and grow. She saw Mila help a younger child read. She watched her colleagues greet each other like family. And suddenly she knew. Later, she drafted a reply. "Thank you for your offer. At the moment, I've found a school that's already taught me more than I ever imagined. I wish you the best in your search." With a single click, Amelia turned down the offer that once would have defined her future. She wasn't chasing dreams anymore, she was living one. In January, during a staff meeting, Michael made an announcement. "We've seen tremendous growth this past year, but none of it compares to the transformation in our team. One person in particular has shown leadership not just in her classroom but across the school. I'd like to introduce our new Assistant Director of Educational Programs, Amelia Torres." The room erupted in applause. Amelia froze for a moment, her heart pounding, then stood slowly, cheeks flushed with disbelief and joy. I didn't expect this," she said, her voice catching. "But you earned it," Michael replied. "You've inspired more than just students. You've reminded all of us what real education looks like." In her new role, Amelia began designing new student programs, training workshops, and support systems for struggling teachers. She mentored others not with textbooks, but with empathy and real-life experience. She never imagined leadership would find her here, but it had, not through ambition or luck, but through a single act of kindness. And every time she looked at Mila, healthy, thriving, and full of life, she was reminded, compassion had brought her here, and compassion would guide her forward. As the school year progressed, Silverstone Scholars began attracting attention from the broader community. Local news stations ran stories on its unique emotional-first teaching model. Parents from neighboring districts asked for tours, donations increased, and at the heart of it all was Amelia, once a jobless teacher in a terminal, now a leader reshaping education. One day, a mother whose son had long refused to attend school stood in Amelia's office holding her son's hand. "He used to cry every morning," the mother said. "Now he wakes up excited. He says Ms. Torres makes him feel like he's worth something." Amelia crouched beside the boy, smiling. "You are worth something. Don't ever forget that." Her words weren't rehearsed. They came from the same place her decision in that airport had come from. A deep belief that kindness, above all, was transformative. The school wasn't just growing in size, it was growing in spirit. And every new student, every teacher inspired, every struggling parent comforted, was part of a ripple that began with a simple choice at gate C21. Amelia now understood something powerful. You never know how far kindness will go until you set it free. Spring arrived with blooming cherry trees and new beginnings, but nothing prepared Amelia for the envelope that landed on her desk one bright April morning. It was embossed with the seal of the National Educational Alliance. Inside was a letter. "Dear Ms. Torres, in recognition of your outstanding commitment to compassionate teaching and your innovative work at Silverstone Scholars, you have been selected as this year's recipient of the Educator of the Year Award." Amelia read the letter 3 times before she fully believed it. That night, Michael threw a surprise celebration in the school auditorium. Teachers, students, and parents gathered with homemade signs and a cake shaped like an open book. When Amelia took the stage to accept the award, she stood silently for a moment. Looking out at the crowd of beaming faces, "I was once told that teaching runs on heart, not curriculum," she said. "I didn't fully understand what that meant until I came here. This place, these people, this mission, have all shown me what education is truly about." Her voice trembled. "And to think, it all started with a flight I didn't take." The room erupted in applause, but Amelia felt something deeper than praise. She felt peace. A few weeks later, Amelia received a small package in the mail. The return address was from Cedar Falls. Inside, she found a handwritten letter and a small notebook. It was from one of the school administrators who had originally scheduled her interview before it was missed. "Ms. Torres, we've followed your story. Your name came up during a conference on trauma-informed education. We now realize the depth of what we missed by not being part of your journey. Enclosed is a journal we give to all new teachers, a tradition we've started inspired by your story. The title on the front is yours, Teach with Heart." Amelia opened the notebook and saw her name engraved inside. Her eyes filled with tears. Sometimes the world had a strange way of circling back, not to undo mistakes but to honor growth. She placed the notebook on her shelf next to the paper airplane and anonymous thank you note. These weren't just mementos, they were mile markers on the path she'd forged through uncertainty, pain, and ultimately purpose. With her new title came new responsibilities, and Amelia took them seriously. She began mentoring new teachers entering Silverstone, guiding them through the difficult but rewarding world of trauma-informed education. She emphasized the importance of listening, of patience, of the little victories, like a child making eye contact for the first time or smiling after weeks of silence. During one training session, a young teacher asked her, "How do you stay hopeful even when it's hard?" Amelia smiled gently. "Because I've seen what one act of kindness can do. I gave up a seat on a plane, and it gave me everything I thought I'd lost." Her story became part of the school's welcome program, and soon after, part of an online educator workshop that spread across the country. Amelia didn't care about fame. She cared that somewhere another teacher feeling lost might hear her words and choose to keep going. It wasn't about being extraordinary. It was about doing the next right thing with heart. Despite her growing responsibilities, Amelia never gave up teaching. She kept a few hours a week with a small group of students, her original class. They were now older, bolder, more confident. But they still looked at her with the same trust they'd built on day one. On the last day of the school year, the children surprised her with a performance, a short play about a teacher who changed lives with kindness. At the end, the children stood holding signs. "Ms. Torres, you taught us more than school ever could." Her heart swelled. Later that evening, as the school emptied and the sun dipped below the horizon, Amelia stood alone in her classroom. She ran her fingers along the feelings board, now filled with bright sticky notes of joy, hope, and pride. She had once stood in an airport unsure of her worth. Now she stood in a space that proved it. Day after day, her classroom wasn't just a room. It was a haven, a reminder that love, when given freely, always finds its way back. Silverstone Scholars expanded that summer, launching a second campus in a nearby town. Michael asked Amelia to lead the initiative. Instead, she suggested promoting one of her mentees, and used her time to develop a curriculum model called Compassion-First Learning. Blending emotional wellness with academic growth, the program gained traction, eventually becoming a featured initiative in state education forums. Amelia was invited to speak at conferences, her once small voice now carrying across rooms filled with policymakers and future educators. She always started with the same story: the little girl named Mila, the father in crisis, the airport gate, and her own moment of surrender, not of weakness but of radical empathy. Years later, Mila would write a college essay about Amelia, calling her the woman who traded a plane ticket for my tomorrow. The essay would go viral, and once again the ripple would grow. 10 years later, Amelia sat beneath a tree outside Silverstone's original campus, watching new students arrive for orientation. Her hair had silver strands now, and her hands bore the gentle lines of time, but her spirit remained just as fierce. A reporter once asked her what moment changed everything. She replied, "The moment I stopped asking what I needed and started asking what someone else needed instead." Looking around, she saw students laughing, teachers hugging, parents wiping away tears of hope. She smiled. All of this, every building, every child, every story, was built not from power or wealth, but from one simple choice to be kind when it mattered most. As she stood and returned to the building, Amelia passed the mural on the school wall, one painted by her students years ago. In bold colors it read, "One kind act can change everything." And it had. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of the quiet power we all hold to change lives, please subscribe. There are more stories like Amelia's waiting to be told and perhaps lived. Let's keep kindness alive, one act, one story, one tomorrow at a time.